Okay guys, thank you for finding my channel. My name is Dr. H on behalf of Octo Media, and in this series of 10-minute Unity tutorials, I'm going to show you in 10-minute sections how to put this scene together in the Unity game engine, how to make it creepy and eerie in time for Halloween. So let's get stuck in. So you can see I've downloaded Unity. All I've done is I've Googled Unity Personal Download, and I've gone to the official Unity download site. I've downloaded it, I've installed it, and I'm going to create a new game. So there's lots of different things that you can do in Unity. Unity is primarily designed for putting two-dimensional and three-dimensional games together. So you can see I've got my load up screen here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this the name of Anti-Social, which is the game project I'm going to be working on with my students. I could add an asset package here, but I'm not going to do that because I'm going to show you how to do that in tutorial later on. So I'm just going to make sure that we're in 3D. Good, we are. And I'm going to create the project. So I'm going to give you a quick basic orientation, but before I do, it's worth just putting something in my scene. So I'm very quickly going to go Game Object, 3D Object, Cube. That's going to create a cube in my scene. The main reason for that is because as I move around, I'm going to need something to show you relative where we are. This is 3D game engine software, so of course I need to be able to see around all three sides of it. All I'm doing here, after I've gone Game Object, 3D Object, Cube, all I'm doing here is I'm holding down Alt, or the Option key on the keyboard. I'm holding down the left mouse button click, and I'm dragging around. If you're not sure where to find the Alt key, it's down here, in between the Command and Control. Or if you're on Windows, I think you can use the Control key, and you can drag around. Push it down, click and drag the left mouse button around. That allows you to look around an object all different sides. I can also hold the Option key and use the middle mouse button if I've set it up. If you haven't set the middle mouse button up on a Mac, you can go to System Preferences, find the section that says Mouse, obviously, and make sure that you turn button 3 on there. Make sure that becomes the secondary button as well. And then if I go back, I can hold the Alt key and click the middle mouse button to drag around. So I can both look around, click my object, I can look around and drag around my scene in order to move around. I can also roll the middle mouse button closer or further away from the object in order to zoom in and out. Now we've got the basics of movement down, let's have a little look around and see what's on the screen. So in here in the center is the scene. We've already seen this. This is where we build our scene. Everything we put together lives in here. When we play and test our game, there's also be the game window and possibly the asset store, though we're not going to get into that today. Make sure we're clicked back on scene and we're ready to move on with the scene. Down here, where it says Project Console, and in my case, Animation, you should see the Project window. Click on the Project tab. This is where we're going to store all of our assets. An asset is anything that we might want to use in our game world, from a piece of music, to a texture, to a model, even to a complex animation system. They're all stored down here in the Assets section. Anytime you drag an asset into your scene, or anytime you create an asset in the scene, like I've done here with the game object, it appears in the hierarchy. The hierarchy is a list of everything that is in this scene. The difference being, if you're making a game with multiple levels, the assets folder down here will contain all of the assets for the whole game. The hierarchy will just list whatever is in this level. And you can see here, I've got a cube, a directional light, and a main camera. The final piece of the puzzle over here is the inspector. The inspector allows me to alter the settings of pretty much anything that's in my scene, and different things, as you'll see, have different settings. Everything from changing the color of the light that's beaming down on my scene. You can see the effect on the cube there as I cycle through the lights. I'm going to put that back the way it was before I started messing with it. To the focal length perspective of the camera, which I'm not going to mess around with because I don't want to break it. To the cube itself. So let's take a look at the cube, because the cube is the first of many objects that we've put in our game world, the first thing that we're going to want to do something with. And the first thing that we're invited to do is to move it around. In Unity, moving is called translating. This is because the code that makes things move in-game needs to understand the phrase translate and won't understand the phrase move. It's possible to move in Unity in any one of 3 different directions along a 3-dimensional axis up here. So the x-axis is basically side to side. If I grab that arrow, just the arrow, and move side to side, it moves just in that axis. If I grab the y-axis, it moves just up and down. I can shake my mouse around as much as I want. It will only ever move up or down. And finally, the z-axis. That moves it forwards and backwards in the scene like so. It is possible to grab the object in the middle and move it in all dimensions at once, but the problem is you're never quite sure where you've put it. You might think, oh yeah, that's perfectly lined up with the horizon, and you create another one, and you think, oh yeah, that's perfectly lined up, they're perfectly lined up with each other, and then you take a little look around and find that in fact they're not at all. So generally speaking, it's a good idea only to move things with the handles as they appear, X, Y and Z in this case. That's the translate tool, which can be found up here or by pushing W on the keyboard. Next is the rotate tool, which can be found next to it here or by pushing E on the keyboard. And again, I can rotate round through this degree, or through this degree here. The final tool is the scale tool, which is up here next to the rotation tool, and you can reach that by pushing R on the keyboard. That allows you to grow it in one direction. Command Z or Control Z on a PC will put it back, that's the undo. Grow it in another direction, grow it in another direction, or finally grow it uniformly from the middle out like so. Now what you might notice when I'm dragging it along is that these numbers over here change. These numbers represent how big the scale is in the Z axis. But I can also type numbers into these boxes and it will control the object in the middle here. So if I put this box back to 1, it shrinks the object back down. If I put the X, Y and Z rotation axes, 0, 0, 0, and I'm just pushing Tab on the keyboard to move between them. Tab is this button here above the caps lock. And then finally, if I put the translate information back to 0, 0, 0, I have zeroed my object, which means I've put it in the center of my stage. So let's use some of those skills to build something useful. I'm going to delete this object by right-clicking, delete. And I'm going to create another game object. I'm going to create a 3D object, a plane, which is a basic floor. 1 by 1 by 1 is a bit small, so I'm going to make this 5 by 5. It won't actually be 5 deep because it's a plane, and a plane has 0 thickness. As you can see, if I try and hold it up there, it's like a sheet of paper. Okay, but that's now 5 meters by 5 meters on the screen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a small wall, and we're going to texture this wall in the next 10-minute Unity tutorial. I'm going to create a cube as such. I'm going to push F on the keyboard to frame on it. You'll notice that my cube is below my plane. So I'm going to zero my plane by pushing 0, 0, 0 to move my plane down. And I'm going to zero my cube by pushing 0, 0, 0. And then if I hover over the cube and push F on the keyboard, it will frame in on the cube. I can now lift this cube out, because you can see it sticking out underneath as well. I'm going to lift this cube out and I'm going to turn it into a wall. I want my wall to be 2 meters high, so I'm going to make it 2 on the y-axis. I'm just going to lift that up so it sits on the floor there. And then I'm going to stretch it manually to make it wide in this direction. And I'm going to shrink it down a little bit like so. And that is my 2 meter high wall that I've created, ready for some texture. Just for the fun of it, I'm going to turn my wall into a T-section. In order to do that, I'm going to duplicate it by pushing Command D on the keyboard or Control D on a PC. When you duplicate something, you'll notice it appears in here, but it doesn't look like it's appeared in the scene window. It has, but it's been duplicated directly on top of the old original model. If I just quickly translate with W and pull that out, you can see I'm pulling it out of where it was. It had just been copied and pasted straight back on top of itself. I'm going to pull that out like that, or in this case, I'm actually going to rotate it round through 90 degrees, and then I'm going to put it on the end like that so that I have a kind of a T intersection that's going to be the start of my wall. Thank you very much for watching this Unity tutorial. In the next tutorial, we're going to take a look at how to create materials and texture that wall with a basic shader, how to download and use seamless textures, and how to tile the wall to make it seem bigger or smaller. Thanks for listening.